Power 2 here on College Football Addiction. A big week in college football. You know why? Because they're all big weeks. I saw you and Chris talking, Cole, about what we thought this weekend might be before the season with all the ranked matchups. And there are still several. Tennessee, Oklahoma. What do we have?
Technically, Texas-Vandy.
Yeah, Texas-Vandy. Yeah, if I'd have told you that this was a ranked matchup, I don't think you'd have called me crazy. But if I'd have told you which team was top 10, I think you'd have been like, come on, dog. Come on.
Diego Pavia ain't that good. By the way, we lose a ranked matchup in Ole Miss versus South Carolina. We gain a ranked matchup. Cincinnati-Utah. Welcome to the party. We're going to talk about you guys today. So, I mean, it's still a good weekend. I will die on this take. There's no such thing as a bad weekend in the world of college football.
I read that in the Bible.
Because you are the ones bitching the most when it comes to the offseason about how we don't have football. Don't be the ones bitching during the season that football is not as good. Because I can tell you what, I still find joy in Ohio State, Penn State. I still find joy in the World Cup.
Makes one of us.
I am someone here that found joy last night watching as Texas State was mollywopped in the second half by James Madison. I thought that was a sleeper game in the Sun Belt this year. Holy crap. Bob Chesney. Start calling your agent, buddy. You're getting a job this offseason. He needs to be considered more of a high-end candidate at this point.
That hurdle touchdown pass was
my God, that
was wild. It was more of a shot put than a pass, but it was pretty nice.
And they lost the game too. That was the best part.
All right. So I'll start bad first, then go good, and then we'll get into the 6 previews that we have here coming up today. But the disappointment that I feel for what I expected to be the best Big Ten game of the year that is frustrating. And I'm sure it's more frustrating for Tom than it is for me, but just not that game, not being kind of what we thought it might be in the offseason. I'll go to the good really quick, not to give the SEC so much love here, but I've talked about this on a few different shows. So sorry to be repetitive if you've had to listen to me say it 3 times, but a lot of people channel surf. I'm sure there will be some degree of channel surfing. I know people quad box. I know people have multiple TVs. My big TV probably will not leave ES or ABC on Saturday. To have Texas-Vandy at noon, then the cocktail party at 3:30, and then right after that have the Tennessee-Oklahoma game at night. Now, obviously, if one of those turns into a blowout, there could be some movement around the channels on the big screen, unless it's the Florida game that's a blowout, because then I will lavishly enjoy that. But the lineup this weekend is still really good, especially in the SEC. And then didn't even mention South Carolina, Ole Miss, which is fun too. So a lot of good stuff.
I'm not complaining.
SEC football right now is far more entertaining than the bulk of the Big Ten. So here we are.
Hypothetical SEC win from Tom Hannifan, right?
I'm just wondering if the SEC's top teams could compete in the ACC after that week 1.
Dude, I was so dumbfounded on Monday when Cole was like, Virginia, contender or pretender for the college football playoff. And I was like, are we talking about the Virginia Cavaliers? I know mathematically they're still in it, but I was like, no, come on.
What I love right now is that even as an SEC homer and somebody who defends the conference more than anybody else, I'll be the first to say the 2 best teams reside in the Big Ten. The problem is that, once again, the same issues that we've had for the Big Ten for years. It's 2, drop off. In SEC, it's 7. Then there's a slight drop off, and then there's 5, and then there's a major drop off. Mm-hmm. That's where we are at this point.
Yeah, when I was in Nashville and I was talking with Chris Cole, he asked which conference wins the national championship. And maybe a Miami or somebody, like Notre Dame or something, who knows. But between the Big Ten and the SEC, and I was like, man, I think I'd go SEC just because they have so many more chances at it. And you don't know how the bracket's going to line up. And if Ohio State and Indiana somehow end up on the same side of the bracket, which they shouldn't, because the conference champion of that is probably going to be 1 and the other one 3 or 4. Well, I guess 1 and 4. Yeah, they could end up on the same side. So, but anyway, all that said, I don't know. The Big Ten has the best teams, but the SEC is going to have maybe 4 or 5 cracks at it with all of the teams that they have coming down the stretch. And so I think it's hard to answer that. All right, maybe that's enough of an intro. Texas versus Vandy. Cole, take us away.
This is a really interesting game because Texas, let me ask you guys this. Do you know what this game means for Texas? Just out of curiosity. Anybody?
I mean, it's a college football playoff eliminator, no?
From last
It's their first SEC home game of the 2025 season.
They've been on the road for over a month.
We
Yeah.
are in the month of November, and they will play their first SEC home game against Vanderbilt, a top 10 Vanderbilt team that is looking to continue its pathway. Now, let's just start off with this. Vanderbilt can lose this football game, and it doesn't eliminate them for the playoff. Texas loses this football game, it probably does eliminate them for the playoff. The status of Arch Manning is going to be really, really big. He didn't practice on Monday. He didn't practice on Tuesday as of the time of this recording. We don't know where he is on the injury report. So it feels like that Matthew Caldwell is going to get the opportunity to make some plays. Caldwell is a really interesting player because if he's had 3 to 4 moments this year where you didn't make you want to say to yourself, we're going to turn to you over Arch Manning, but you did come away impressed. Had that big time throw against Florida, had the big time touchdown last weekend against Mississippi State, had a couple of runs. He's got some spark to him that can make something move. And I think that that's going to be really interesting on how do you prepare for a quarterback that's built like him versus what you're so accustomed to seeing with Arch Manning, knowing that the mobility is there, knowing that there is a little bit more when it comes to the finesse style of things. And also he's able to stay in the pocket and deliver. Last week I came away very impressed with how he looked going up against a defensive line like Mississippi State. Difference is Vanderbilt's defensive line is better. Vanderbilt's defensive line is miles better. And I think that they're really good at attacking the quarterback and making them one-dimensional, even if you are a quarterback that knows how to make some runs. You're going to have to, I think, trust your ground game in this matchup. It's not beneficial. Vanderbilt has a top 20 run defense, but the only way to take pressure off of Caldwell to be able to build that repertoire downfield is definitely going to be by trusting what you have with your running back system. And CJ Baxter is going to be back, and you're going to have Trey Wisner. Can you find any bit of mobility? Like last week, we saw Ahmad Hardy finally get to near 100 yards. Can you do something along those lines when it comes to the combination of just both Baxter and Wisner at this standpoint? They weren't able to run the football, in my opinion, pretty efficiently last weekend against Mississippi State, but they were able to throw the football with these. This is where the Ryan Wingo game happened. This is where Parker Livingston made some big-time plays. Evan Mosey made some big-time plays. And it is a weak point for Vanderbilt. The one thing that we can say about their defense right now is that they allow explosives down the field, and that if you lose one-on-one matchups, they can take it to the house on you. They absolutely can. So Texas, can your quarterback be able to build a good repertoire with his weapons on the outside? Can you be able to win on third and manageable? Can you get to third and manageable and be a little bit more open with the playbook this weekend? Because if it is a quarterback that has nothing to lose in Matthew Caldwell. On the flip side, Texas did not have a good showing at all defensively last week against Mississippi State until the fourth quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, they looked like vintage Texas, and they were able to get after Blake Shapen, make him pay, and definitely bring back in enough gusto to pull off the victory in Starkville. So my question is, if you're Vanderbilt, do you have something in the works that we have not seen yet this year? I think you're going to have to. There's some teams I look at and it's like Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I don't want to see them do anything different this weekend because I don't want to see you use this as an advantage to where it ends up hurting you and now you're sitting with 2 losses because you played around with your food too long when it came to South Carolina. Texas A&M, I don't need to see any trickery from you. I need to see a little bit of a spark when it comes to passing attack downfield for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's going to have to win through the air in this game. It's a top 20 run defense. They're great on red zone efficiency. They're great on third down execution with Texas getting after quarterbacks. They take away the mobility of Diego Pavia's legs. So this is going to be one of those games where we look at what are we going to get from a Richie Hoskins? What are we going to get from a Trey Richardson? What are we going to get from a Junior Sherrill? Can we get some dink and dunk passes out of the backfield to Maitland Young and Cedric Alexander? And Pavia going to have to trust his arm to be the X factor in this matchup versus the thing that has gotten him this far, which is his legs to be able to push it ahead forward. So that's, again, a thing that I think is going to be one of the major selling points in this matchup. Can Vanderbilt also win with explosives downfield? Much like when it comes to Vanderbilt, Texas secondary, they've allowed explosive plays. They're very much in that conversation of giving up 18, giving up 21. And they aren't at full capacity right now with Mookie Taft's status in the secondary. So another major element that could eventually benefit a team like Vandy versus helping a team like Texas. Texas also, since joining the SEC, has yet to lose a game at home outside of the Georgia one. They're 16-1 in their last 17 matchups at DKR. So there's reasons to believe that, again, first SEC home game, knowing the college football playoff is on the line, trying to make sure that you set the tone, in front of your hometown crowd. You save your season going into the month of November. And there's still people out there that tell you, hey, Steve Sarkisian, he may be saying to everybody right now, I don't want to go to the NFL, but if it gets south, I may go to the NFL. Good way to silence that is by getting a win at home. And I think that those are some things that you're definitely going to have to look at. The last thing that I'm looking at in this matchup, more than anything else, I think the most important thing in this matchup is going to be, can we see Diego Pavia run at any point? If he can run at any point, then I think that you're going to be able to watch Vanderbilt come away with a win. If not, this is going to be a game that actually I understand why it favors Texas because of the betting Vegas odds, which again is stupid because of, let's be real, if Vegas saw Texas logo on Vanderbilt's helmet, they'd put them as the leader.
I agree with you. I think that I can buy why Texas is getting favored in this game, but really I think it should be flipped. It's -2.5 right now in favor of Texas. I think Vanderbilt has looked sharper. I do not love a situation where Texas with a backup quarterback is in a must-win game, because this is essentially, if they're not already eliminated, this is basically the eliminator. This would be 3 losses, not all within conference play. You have the Ohio State game, which is quote unquote a good loss. So I understand that, and it's out of conference, but this would be the end of Texas. So putting things in the hands of your backup quarterback where you have no run game, you're not all of a sudden going to discover a run game. Your offensive line has not been good, not been healthy much of this season. That's not going to change overnight. So putting your backup quarterback in a situation where it's like, got to have it, more desperation situations, I don't love. But this is definitely going to be a game where Pavia, I think to your point, he has to be good running the football, because he has not been stellar throwing the football down the field. That has been not great for Vanderbilt this season in general, and especially as of late. They need to commit to the run game, but this is still a really good Texas defense. They are full of athletes and full of freaks. So I think the over-under is, 44.5?
44.5.
I think it's a bit of a dogfight. Give me 21-17 Vanderbilt in this game. I think it's going to be ugly. And for all the people out there saying, oh, well, Haynes King should be getting more love than Diego Pavia in the Heisman race, know that I agree with you, but Diego Pavia is the one who's getting the national spotlight right now. So it's a weird time.
I will push back just a little bit and say, as much as I do think that you need to see Pavia win with his legs, this is one where he's got to win with his arm. And the thing that I will really push back with is, if I'm Vanderbilt, I want to see him win with his arm, because there's going to be a point where you get to a crossroads in the college football playoff if you are lucky enough to get there, because they still can go 9-3 down the stretch. They can go 8-4 for all we know. But if they make the college football playoff, the teams that are more multifaceted, the teams that you know can win in different ways, those are the ones that you have to prepare for, that usually you're going to have to give up on one side. Either you're going to let them run the football and you're going to stop them through the air, or you're going to give up points through the air and you're going to a testament and make them not be able to run. So I got to see from Pavia that we can get that passing attack downfield. He this season has yet to throw for 200 plus yards against any Power 4 team. This may have to be one of those games that's a non-negotiable to win. Like when we do the sleeper pick, if Pavia's name is on there, I'm telling you what, you got to put him with the over in passing yards if he wants to win this football game. Because if it's the under, I don't see a scenario where Texas doesn't win.
We do the more or less with sleeper. We love sleeper.
More or less.
Spoiler alert, it's on there. So
yeah,
stay tuned for that. My big question on this is, can Pavia hold up? And I love how tough he is, but this is the third really tough game that they're going to play in a row on the road. Granted, this is Texas's third tough game in a row, and they've played much worse competition in Mississippi State and Kentucky. But I mean, as tough as I think Pavia is, both on and off the field, I think eventually, I mean, I don't know that he can just sustain for the rest of the season, just taking the hits that he's going to continue to take. And so, yeah, I kind of agree with Cole. Like, he's got to do some things with his arm in this one. They've got to lean on the ground game from running back rushes, not from his legs making miracles and him going in there and trying to bully some of these Texas defenders. And so that's a big question to me. How much did Texas find in that 17-point comeback in the fourth quarter that gives them confidence to not be just absolutely pedestrian offensively? Because if they're not, I like Vandy's defense. I like the veteran style that they play. They're obviously extremely well coached. If Texas can't take advantage of some of the mismatches they have offensively, then I don't want to say that 17-point comeback was for nothing, because you still won the game. So congratulations on beating Mississippi State. But if it's almost like, will we look back and say that was the spark that Texas needed to play closer to? I don't think they'll ever be like what we this year. I don't think they'll get to where we thought they would be. But was that the spark that got them closer to what maybe our preseason expectations were for them? And again, yeah, this is big for Texas. If Texas loses this one, they're losing a couple more afterward. Like, I don't see them going in and beating Georgia, and I don't think they beat A&M at the end of the year. They could play spoiler in one of these for sure. But this is a big game for Texas because you don't want to end up hanging your head afterward and realizing your season's over. So I don't know, man. I don't feel super confident about anything. My heart says Vandy wins. My head says that Texas ekes it out and just plays a little bit better. So I'm super split. I'll go with my heart, but with no confidence. 21-20, Vandy. 0%.
Again, let me phrase it this way. If you told me that Texas won this football game, I wouldn't be shocked. Again, it's at home. You got a backup quarterback coming on in that they don't know how to prepare for, that you've barely seen enough film on him. Outside of what you watched him last season down the stretch at Troy, because I think that he started 5 games last year at Troy before he entered the portal. You don't have a lot of things to go off of. And maybe that's why you lean into, okay, well, Texas, you're going to see some breakout plays from wide receivers that maybe was missing because of they've been working with Codwell in the second team offense. And maybe that's kind of a benefactor for a Mosley, for a Khalil Lockett if he gets on in the game, Parker Livingston, which got Washington at tight end, injuries at tight end. I could see that. I could also see Texas just not having enough juice. But what this really comes back to me for is I think it's a special season out in Nashville. I also think that when you look at this team in general, they're a veteran roster that understands this may be the one shot to beat Texas. Don't even look at the playoff. I'm just talking about in general. This may be the one shot to beat Texas in the history of your program in this new version of the SEC where NIL is massive. I think that's why it prevails. I think 24-21 final score. I think you're right on that line of 44.5. So take the under, take Vanderbilt to win, take Vanderbilt to beat the cover.
I think Vanderbilt also revenge from last year. They had a lot of momentum and then ran into Texas at home in what they thought was a magical year. So they'll be up for this game. By the way, shout out to Paul in the comments section with a brand new type of SEC hypothetical I didn't know existed. If Tom and Cole think that Texas hasn't been eliminated already with Georgia and Texas A&M to play, they're smoking their own product. Look at the schedule. I didn't know you could be eliminated by games you haven't even played yet. Incredible stuff, Paul.
This is my
SEC where idiots go to thrive.
Listen, I kind of agree with Paul. I think they're already eliminated. I'm
right, but you can't be eliminated by games you haven't played yet. It's just stupid.
We get enough of the other hypotheticals of games that have already happened. Like, oh, well, if this happened this week, so I'm gonna ride with Paul. They're already eliminated. They're eliminated in my mind, Paul.
Let's jump to the conclusion. Screw it.
If they're eliminated, then you know what? So is USC. So is Iowa. So is everybody else. Everyone else eliminated.
Well, Tom eliminated.
Ohio State's eliminated. Everybody's
eliminated. Tom eliminated Virginia. If we're being honest, Tom started the trend.
Just being a hater.
You know what was the one that made me mad for Tom? When he eliminated Louisville. When he just said, "Oh, it's Miami," I was like, "What did Louisville do to you?"
Nothing. It's just they're going to only go with 2 ACC teams. I think
but what if Louisville has the head-to-head?
I don't think they're going to care.
God,
they're going to care.
You want to talk about the way to rally the troops for college football sanity? That is the way to guarantee that we just get rid of divisions in general.
Let's go to the sleeper picks real quick, just because you did mention Pavia. We'll do this, and then we'll go on to, I don't even remember what the next game was on our list, but Tennessee, Oklahoma, the night game. So, all right, Cole, you start us off. Pavia, 191 yards, 191.5 yards passing.
I say more because I think he's going to need more than that to win this game. Like, I think that's what this is. If I think Vanderbilt is winning on Saturday, it's because of Diego Pavia threw for more than 190 passing yards. That's just the bottom line.
I'm going to say less just because I don't think that they've shown the ability to throw at a high volume down the field consistently this year. So I'd say less, but I still think Vandy wins the game.
I'm going to go less as well. I think they really... I just don't have the confidence that they can do it against this Texas defense, that they'll have enough time against edge rushers that look elite again or are starting to look elite. I have a hard time thinking they do it, but I guess I still pick Vandy to win halfway, but I'll go less. Julian saying, Tom, you can start here. 255.5 passing yards.
I'm going to go less because I just don't think they're going to need him to do all that much in the passing game. This is a Penn State team defensively where the defensive backs have been attending defensive staff meetings because they're trying to understand Jim Knowles' defense. And for weeks, this is before James Franklin got fired, they're trying to simplify the defense, not just with the defensive backs. I'm not putting it all on them. The entirety of this defense. They are all trying to figure out what in the blue hell Jim Knowles' defense is. They're trying to simplify it. And also, I think the evaluation of this defense was incorrect from jump from this past season. I think this is a game where ultimately we've seen Penn State give up a lot of yards on the ground to a lot of teams in the interior. I expect Ohio State to take advantage of that. Not that they're a super dominant rushing team, but the opportunity is going to be there. So give me less for Julian Saying because I just don't think he has to work that hard for 255.
There's still a lot of people out there that are saying I would take Diego Pavia and Haynes King and other quarterback over Julian Saying as their starter, which I find to be egregious. I mean, if we didn't talk about Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson, the number one quarterback would be
100%.
Julian Saying in college football. I think that he wants to prove that. I'll go more simply because I think that you're going to see Brian Hartline and company go, hey, let's give them something to talk about.
I'll go more as well. I think that Day and Hartline try to run it up. Not that Penn State's a great team, but Ohio State doesn't play a lot of great teams.
We're not even a good team.
Back end. Yeah, that's true. But I do think that winning by 20 plus and continuing to kind of light it up, I think, you're trying to build style points against a schedule that's not very good. So I think they keep the foot on the throat pretty heavily. So sorry, Tom. DJ Lagway, 223.5 passing yards against Georgia. I think they try and ground and pound. I'm going to go less on this.
I disagree. I think Georgia's defense and their secondary has given up a fair amount this season. No. This is not your dad's Georgia. I guess I don't even know how to put that, but from like a handful of years ago, like
your older brother's Georgia.
Yeah, your brother's Georgia. Yeah, they give up plays in the passing game. I think give me more for DJ Lagway.
More for DJ Lagway.
Why is this covered?
He's going to throw 4 interceptions. Who said that? Who said that? Sorry, guys. Was I here for that? I don't know. Somebody said something weird in my question. Next one.
I heard you.
I don't know who that was. It went black. Screen went black. I don't know who that was.
Joel Lompson. Yes,
exactly.
He came in for a second.
Damn it, Joel.
Let's flip over. That's all I got for that one. Jade Mayava. 274.5 passing yards against Nebraska.
More, but not by a ton. I think this is USC's chance to get right after that Notre Dame game. But they played hard. They played a really good game ultimately and just, it came up short there. Nebraska, they seem like they're losing bite as the season goes on. They stink inside in the interior, like the line of scrimmage on both sides, rough. This is what Ava and company want to do. They want to throw the football. I think they're going to do what they do best.
I go less because I think that you have to run the football in this game. I think that you want to show that you can be a ground and pound team that can go against anybody whenever you go to the college football playoff, if you are able to make it that far. So also, what are we going to talk about when it comes to this running back room? Because we don't really know who's taken on over with what's his name out for a couple games. So I think you want to get a good gauge on where you are in the tailback situation to begin with.
Yeah, Wayman.
I'll go. Yeah, Waylon, what was it?
It's Wayman.
Why am I blanking on his last name? I should know this, but I don't. Anyways, I go less.
I will go less on this. I think, I'll go less. I think they're able to, I don't know. I think it's a little lower scoring.
Wayman Jordan.
A ton of yards. So, I don't know.
Wayman Jordan.
I almost said Jones. Sorry.
Wayman Jordan. That was it. I know it was a J.
Gunnar Stockton, the other side of that UF-UGA matchup, 224.5 passing yards.
More. I actually think that he's going to have a good day.
I agree. More. I think this game is going to be drunk the way the Tennessee-Georgia first half was drunk. I think you're going to see that the whole game. It's going to be weird.
I'll go more. I don't love Florida's secondary. and I think that's the weakest part of their defense. I think Georgia has a good day there. We'll stay right on that one. Zachariah Branch, 55.5 receiving yards, going in line with my last one. I'll go more here as well.
I'll go more as well. Yep.
I go less, maybe just to be controversial, but I also want to see the tight ends get more involved in this. I think again, the beauty of what has been Georgia for years is that you always have good tight end play and you always have the good ability to run the football. You have the ability to run the football. Lawson Lucky's coming off of a career day with 3 touchdowns last week or 2 weeks ago.
Last one, Carson Beck down there on the bottom, 249.5 passing yards on the road at SMU in front of 30,000 Wild fans. In an ACC classic.
Less, I need to look at his overall stats. So come back to me here, but like he's not necessarily thrown at volume every single time this season. You know, like he's had his big 4 touchdown and 3 touchdown passing games, but it often doesn't come with a tremendous amount of yardage behind it. Let me look at that.
Tom, SMU has the second worst pass defense in college football. More.
I understand what you're saying. I just there's certain games where we've talked about it a bunch here on this show. What do you need to do versus what can you do? I don't think they need to throw the ball a ton during this game because they can run the ball effectively. So
sure,
that's often the balance with Miami.
But counter argument, you have Malachi Toney taking a 7-yard slant pattern, 85 yards to the house. He's going to get 85 yards on the stat sheet, whether that's him or not. That's where the difference is, in my opinion.
I'll go more because I think SMU plays the same way that Florida State and Louisville did. I think they say, you're not running for over 100 yards on us. We will absolutely let out the box. And if Beck can beat us, he'll beat us. And I think because of how bad their pass defense is, they will do it. So I'll go more on this one. But go Mustangs. Is that it? Did we all do it? All right. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. We're good. Tennessee, Oklahoma, the night game in the SEC on ABC. Cole, Heupel and his old team.
We got a good one. We got to go. Like, it's spooky season's upon us. They're wearing the dark. They're wearing the blackout jerseys. I mean, this is why you hate playing at Neyland. I'm not gonna lie. Like this, the reason why they're going full blackout mode. They are embracing what is Halloween. They're trying to become the Grim Reaper to the Oklahoma college football playoff hopes. This is why you hate going to Neyland Stadium, especially in November. They had a good offensive performance last week. Joey Aguilar had a couple of big-time touchdowns, 3 wide receivers, all finished with over 100 yards. They were able to get the ball in the space when it came to the rushing attack. So it's going to be a challenge, I think, for Brent Venables' defense to be able to slow down Joey Aguilar. That's just the bottom line, is that you got to make him throw some interceptions. You got to work with some short field position. You got to force some 3 and outs. And the thing that you got to remind yourself of, there are some similarities to Lane Kiffin's offense and Josh Heupel's offense, but not a lot. Like, they both love to utilize the run game early on to set the pass downfield. They're both going to rely on explosive plays to a Chris Brazell, or at this point, last week it was a Winston Watkins. So you've gone up against receivers that are going to have certain route concepts that you can go ahead and compete against. Do you feel like that the receivers that you're going to be going up against this weekend in Knoxville are better than the receivers that you had at home last weekend that came in from Oxford? That'll be a really big key in this matchup. I think that also, if you are going to be able to beat Oklahoma, you have to be able to defensively get after John Mateer. At this point, it's well documented, and I don't need to continue to say it. It's not a good Tennessee secondary this year, whether it's because of injuries, whether it's because of just the lack of depth. Outside of Colton Hood, they do not have a dude that is going to be making plays. Like, that's just the bottom line. So you're going to be able to feast with Isaiah Satanga. You're going to be able to get some plays with the Deion Burks. You're going to be able to make some plays downfield. Even I would go as far with Javonte Gibson. But the thing is that if you can force John Mateer to have to play outside the pocket and get some pressure on him the way that we watched last week, Ole Miss's defensive line gets some pressure on him, they may be in for a long day. The thing that I will look at for Oklahoma that's going to be beneficial on their side, they were able to somewhat run the football last week. Not a lot, not great, but enough to be able to get the job done. They had the big Xavier Robinson rushing touchdown on the 65-yard score. Back-to-back weekends that they've had a 100-yard rusher. So, again, they're starting to finalize the ground game, and they figure out that they do have a lead running back, and Torrey Blaylock, I think, could be really good. Tennessee is not great defending the run. They're better at defending the run than the pass, but they're not great at that standpoint. So can you rely on the explosives? And explosives, they can come on both ways. And when I say that, I don't mean just 50-yard blast downfield to a wide receiver. I mean, it could be a 40-yard run like we saw last weekend by Xavier Robinson, who went 67 to the house on a call. Like that just might be the case. And so I think that when you look at that standpoint, it's going to be a game where John Mateer is going to have to, I think, go ahead and trust his legs. I think this is a good big game for Ben Arbuckle. Ben Arbuckle was hired to become the next offensive coordinator, fix the overall identity of this team. And ever since really, I would say the Temple game, we have not seen Ben Arbuckle's offense work. Maybe it's because of John Mateer with the hand injury. A lot of things have gone down for him. Just his overall style of play hasn't been that beneficial. So, but I think, again, you got to get into your bag of tricks. This is an eliminator game. This is a game that you want revenge over for not being able to win in your house last year. Heupel wants revenge over because of, again, he does not like his alma mater because of the way he was treated and the staff there for years. So I think that this is a game where if you told me it was on a neutral field, if you're Oklahoma, you can get a couple of interceptions, put yourself in a position to where you're walking away with at least points. There's an opportunity for you to win, and I think win outright. The problem is this is a game where it is a playoff eliminator. It's Neyland Stadium. It's night. It's a blackout. It is spooky season. This is also a playoff eliminator for Tennessee. Tennessee needs this win because if they can't afford to make a mistake before they take on Vanderbilt. The other thing is that they also have a very, very good wide receiver core, and it is one of the top scoring offenses in college football. They want to send a message. This is still one of the best defenses in college football. Just a lot of things don't favor, I think, Oklahoma in this matchup to where it does feel like if you get off to the races, this could be over pretty quickly.
I agree with that. And I've said it for weeks now. Mateer has just not looked right. And part of that was the surgery, his right hand, his throwing hand, the way that he's played this year. His recognition in the passing game isn't there. And I love his weapons. I love what they've actually assembled on the offensive side of the ball under Brent Venables. But Mateer has not developed and taken that leap that I think we all thought he was going to at Washington State. But that ultimate evaluation is going to be really difficult considering the injury. I think he's going to have his opportunities. And it's the thing about Mateer in this offense is that you can still get explosives against this Tennessee team. You can still get some things that just bounce your way properly, but I don't think there's enough things that will bounce their way in this situation. The big matchup I'm looking at is Joey Aguilar against this Oklahoma defensive line, because Oklahoma's D-line is one of the best in the country. It's one of the best defenses. So it's still going to make it hard on Joey Aguilar, but it's been proven so far this season. If you put pressure on him, he will make mistakes. He will try and play hero ball. He has not learned the lessons of what it's like really to be a quarterback at the top of the FBS. He still tries to elongate plays, tries to do too much. That's the only thing that I can really see killing Tennessee in this game. I still think Tennessee has too much for Oklahoma in this. So give me Tennessee 34-20 at Neyland.
Ooh, a big win on that one. Yeah, I think what's interesting about this is we all know that Josh likes to go hyper fast or super fast or whatever. And we saw we saw Ole Miss have success with really slowing things down. And when they broke the huddle and just the way that they played it, I don't think Heupel will replicate that. I think he'll just do what he does and do it successfully. Could there be certain aspects where he does? Sure. But I think for the large portion of the game, he's going to play this like he always does and trust his process. Not that it can't work, but I do wonder if we look back and say, man, that fit into what Oklahoma wanted a little bit better. Not that anybody wants somebody going a million miles an hour against them, but I just wonder if they couldn't strategically kind of use some of the stuff that Ole Miss just showed you can be used in the way that they run their offense. I also wonder if, Tennessee obviously relies very much on the explosive play. I thought Ole Miss also just kind of took what was there at times against this defense. Will Aguilar be willing to do the same thing and just take what's there? If not, do they hit on the explosives that they need to hit on, that they hit on against Georgia and that they have hit on in other games to get them, enough points to win, enough yardage to win games? I have a hard time seeing Oklahoma's offense, even though Tennessee is the worst defense in the SEC. I have a hard time seeing Oklahoma's offense score enough points to stay up. I think it's relatively close, but I like 31-20 Vols.
I am going to give way too much flack for this because I don't make the pick afterwards, but I will give credit where credit's due. Oklahoma's defense is still legit. It's still one of the best in the SEC. They can still get after quarterbacks. They still are great in third down efficiency. They're still great inside of red zone opportunities. Ole Miss is a team that you don't get right against, especially when it comes to the defense side, because Lane Kiffin is a mastermind and a wizard when it comes to his play designs, and that's ultimately what won the game. I don't see this being a blowout slugfest in favor of Tennessee in that standpoint. I think that they're going to have to earn their points. And I think that we got to give a lot of credit to what is going to be a very underwhelming performance from Tennessee's defense. Hunter brings it up in the comments, and he's 100% right. Tackling has been such a major issue the entire year for Tennessee. It's been bad to worse. You got in the open field, they're going to make plays. So I think that is where you will find your spark from Oklahoma's offense. I don't think Oklahoma has enough offensively to beat Tennessee, but I'm going to be a lot nicer and say this is a 27-24 game. I think the under hits in this matchup just because of how much I do like Tennessee's defense. Oklahoma's defense.
All right, Tom, you can't avoid it anymore. Penn State and Ohio State this weekend.
We don't have to talk about it. We don't need to talk about it. It's going to be a nice little contest between two teams in Columbus. It's at noon on Fox. So, for those of you that want to watch, you don't have to watch it. You can skip it if you want. Where do we begin? So Penn State will probably have left guard Vega Ioane back and rotational guard / center Cooper Cousins back. So a little bit of positivity along the offensive line that's kind of had to rotate pieces as guys have become available and unavailable through most of the year. Ethan Grunkemeyer in his very first start as a redshirt freshman on the road at Iowa, one of the best defenses in the country, looked exactly like a redshirt freshman. He looked like a guy who can make one read and then a bit deer in headlights. He's aggressive with his decision-making. When he does make the proper decision, it often helps the offense. Penn State kind of overcorrected offensively in running the football against Iowa the week in that Iowa game, They had Katron Allen carried about 28 times and then Nick Singleton for 6. And the biggest question mark most of the season, why was Singleton getting the same amount of carries as Katron or more carries when it was clear that Allen was the better running back? All that is to say, those elements are not necessarily lining up well against this defense. This is the best defense in the country in Ohio State statistically. They are throwing some concepts out there with Matt Patricia, a defensive coordinator, that are going to boggle the mind of a quarterback making his second start in 3 weeks in his entire college career, and it's on the road as well. This is just a bad situation. Backup quarterback Jackson Smolik, his availability is a question mark. They tried to run Andy Kotelnicki's 2-quarterback system that he used at Kansas, and they tried to use that against Iowa. Some people thought, yes, there was success with a handful of explosives that came from it in the running game. I'm of the mind that it really didn't seem necessary because Jackson Smolik was never a threat to actually throw the ball in any conventional concepts. He was strictly an option quarterback, and he got hurt in that game. So your next option is Beckham Kritza, who is just coming off of IR and is a true freshman. Your other option behind that is Jack Lambert, who I think is a redshirt sophomore or something like that. Like, these are guys who have never touched the field in any capacity. So this is the proverbial banging your head against the wall with this offense. So I just don't think this sets up well for Penn State to score much, if at all, offensively. They're going to need a lot of things to go right defensively, and they're going to need a lot of things to go right on special teams, which has kind of been the case for most of the season and was the case against Iowa. Who would have thought Justin Lustig is the best coordinator on Penn State football in 2025? So congrats to him. Maybe he'll keep his job here in a couple of months. For Ohio State, Brian Hartline and this offense, they're doing all the right things with Julian Sayin. We were talking about him earlier on in the show. He could very well be the best quarterback in college football. He's at least playing the best of the position, I think, nationally right now. Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson can make an argument. You put those 3 guys in the position. So it does make you think about, okay, where's he going to be in a handful of years? All of the weapons he has at his disposal The receiving core, they're not necessarily the greatest running game in the country with Ohio State. But this is still a really good offensive line. They have probably 4 different running backs that they can rotate out there. They don't put a ton of pressure on Julian Sayin in the grand scheme of things. So the best bet for Penn State is going to be to force Julian Sayin to make a lot of decisions. But I was talking about it earlier on in the show. This is a defense that is actively attempting to dumb down its strategy and playbook to make it simpler for this defense to play fast. That does not set up a lot of situations where Penn State and Jim Knowles are going to put Julian Sayin in a blender in terms of decision making, and they still have the best athletes on the field when it comes to the wide receivers. So this just doesn't really match up very well for Penn State, unfortunately, and it is a bummer. We talked about it earlier. In the offseason, there are a lot of people, myself included, who hoped this could be 2 undefeated teams meeting in Columbus in early November. Could this be a preview of the Big Ten championship game? And now it's a far cry from that, and there's a strong chance Penn State doesn't win its first Big Ten matchup this season for another 3 weeks.
Who gets a win first in conference, Florida State or Penn State?
Who's Florida State got?
Wake Forest this week.
That ain't happening. They're firing Norvell after this game.
Right. Hey, I'm fine with that. But
Wake Forest has toppled SMU, so you got that. Honestly, this is just a rough stretch in general for Penn State. With I don't envy Ethan Grunkemeyer. Your first 3 starts are at Iowa, at Ohio State. Yeah, you had the bye week last week to kind of correct things, and Drew Hour's been around the building trying to help out. And then you're hosting Indiana on the 8th. Like, it's just it's brutal. And then you go to Michigan State. Maybe that's where you get your first Power 4 win of the year.
I don't have a good gauge on this game at all, to be completely honest. I've been watching more Ohio State than I have watching any bit of Penn State. So forgive me if I just say I think Ohio State wins this one. Like, now, give me a final score of I'll be nice, 31-10, 31-7. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm not even going to try and act like that. I have a gauge on where Penn State is right now.
I'll go 38-13. Ohio State.
That was exactly what I was just going to say.
Sorry, I'll do it. Yeah, 41-13. I'll make it even worse. Whatever.
Oh no, I agree with you. This is a situation where players inevitably will get up for it. I expect to see fight and toughness from Penn State, at least in the first half of this game. But Ohio State's too much at every single position. The spread is 20.5. The over-under is 43.5. I'm with you. Somewhere in the neighborhood of close to 40 points or over 40 points for Ohio State. Defensively, Penn State does not have much of a pass rush. The interior of the defensive line, the defense itself cannot stop the run. There is next to no depth at linebacker, and the secondary is just not what people thought it was in the offseason. And I love Terry Smith. My regular co-host is Justin King, coined the phrase "Lockdown U," former Penn State defensive back. Great. I would love to see these guys performing at a higher level, but Zakee Wheatley at safety can't do everything by himself.
I never thought there'd be a situation. I knew I was going to be at home this weekend in the offseason, just kind of looking at my travel schedule and what games I would go to. I don't know if this will make it onto one of the 3 TVs that I watch. I never quad box, by the way. I'm too ADD for that, but I do have the 3 TV set up. And so Vandy, Texas on the big one, Miami, SMU on one of the small ones. And then I'm down to either this game or Duke and Clemson. And I just think because we play Clemson next week, that'll probably be what it's at. I can't believe that I might not have this game on. Maybe this will make the laptop for a quarter, but we'll see.
Yeah. This will make the laptop for me.
So, all right, on to Jacksonville. Question before we get into this. Better rivalry nickname, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party or the Red River Shootout? Both banned. Like, if you're watching these on TV now, you can't say it anymore. But do you have a preference, guys, on this?
I still think the Red River Shootout's an awesome name. I'm partial to the Holy War. I'm partial to the Civil War. Can't say that anymore with Oregon State and Oregon. The Border War is great. And I've been lobbying for it on social media. Give me the Coal Bowl. Give me Wyoming versus West Virginia for this nation's leading state in coal production. But yeah, Red River Shootout is an awesome name.
I grew up in Texas. You know the answer to this one, boys.
I'll be the one contrarian that'll go cocktail party just because I grew up in Florida.
It is a great name. Oh, don't get me wrong.
If I grew up anywhere but Florida, I'd go the other way. But living so close, being such a big Georgia Bulldog fan this week, Cole, Florida can the biggest question mark here is what do they look like with a new play caller in O'Hara, and then how the thing that Florida has not struggled with is effort under Napier, because I do truly believe they love that guy and played like hell for him. But does that keep up with him gone? Does some of the distraction maybe leave with him gone? Does the play get better with him gone? That's probably the biggest question. I don't necessarily think so, but just thoughts on this one.
Yeah, Billy Gonzalez, he's been around the program for years. He was brought on in with Urban Meyer. He was brought back in after he was at Mississippi State with Mullen. He was brought back in with Napier. So, he gets Florida. He understands what this culture is all about, and he understands what it takes to win there. And more specifically, he understands what it takes to be a Gator. So I think that if there was anybody who was going to get the interim job, it makes sense that the wide receivers coach, who's been around the block for multiple position changes and coaching staff moves, absolutely belongs in that conversation, because of he has earned his merit to finally get a chance to call plays. And I'm not saying that this is going to be like Ed Orgeron 2.0, where LSU makes a move and they get rid of Les Miles. They think that they're going to bring in Tom Herman, then they decide to go run it back with the guy who was a defensive line coach and, has great ties to St. Louisiana. I don't think that's going to be the case, but still, the thing about this is that this is still a very talented Florida team. Like, we can go ahead and just take off all the things that we knew about Florida, where they were insufficient with the play designs underneath Billy Napier. Just looking at roster for roster, it is a good team. They still have, in my opinion, one of, if not the best running back in the SEC. They have multiple young wide receivers that can easily find space in the open lane and create opportunities for themselves. Defensively, they're still a top 20 unit, and they are going to be able to pressure Gunnar Stockton into making some mistakes. This is a very, very good on paper Florida team. And it's why, in my opinion, it's an enticing job in the offseason, and why we got to consider it a number 2 job, maybe even number 1 to some people, because of the roster that's built. If I'm Florida, though, I got to come out swinging. I've got to lay the haymaker down, and I've got to be able to throw the first punch, because I watched Tennessee throw the first punch against Georgia. I watched Alabama throw the first punch against Georgia. I watched Auburn throw the first punch against Georgia. I watched Ole Miss throw the first punch against Georgia, and all of them kept punching in the first half. And then eventually Georgia was able to work its way back. They didn't win every single game, but they've won most of them. I got to be able to throw the first punch. I have got to make sure that the slow starts from Georgia's defense continue to be an issue, that show up on Saturdays, that show up early in the first quarter, and gives me some advantage and some pull to where I feel like that this is where it all starts trending upwards. So that's priority number 1. It's a non-negotiable in my opinion. You have got to be out and start swinging. I agree with you on one thing, TJ. You got to run the football. I think that Georgia's run defense is the strength of their team, but you got to tire them out. You got to find a way to be able to trust what you get with Jaden Baugh. Get the ball into your best playmaker's hands. Let him find creases and avenues and small little tidbit windows to work on forward and make it 2nd and 3 or 3rd and 1, to where you can truly open up the playbook and kind of get into your element with a guy like DJ Lagway. On the flip side, I think for Georgia, this is going to be a really interesting game to figure out who is your other star playmaker. Because if Colby Young's going to be out indefinitely with the leg injury, so somebody's got to step on up. Is it your tight end? Is it Noah Thomas, the transfer for Texas A&M? Is it potentially you get back to an Oscar Delp, who's been a very good receiving threat? He just hasn't found his way into the end zone. Do you go to one of your younger receivers? Because Georgia, remember, they have a lot of guys that are currently waiting in the wings that are homegrown talents that are waiting for their opportunities to get on the field. This may be the game to where you see one of them go toe-to-toe with the secondary player for Florida, and they end up making the highlight grab. I think that's really important. I think that once you're able to set the tone through the air, you got to start slowing down the clock and doing the death march. And honestly, if you do the death march twice, I don't think that's too wrong of a ploy here, because we know that every team so far has not been able to slow down Georgia when they decide to go 13 plays, run it down your throat, and get your defensive line tired. I think that penalties are going to be a really big time matchup, a big time deal in this game. I think that 3rd down conversions are going to be a big time deal in this game. I think red zone efficiency, both Georgia and Florida have had their success inside of the red zone stopping teams. Holding them to 3 points is going to be a big time deal. I think that when you just look at it, one team is already kind of making it clear we're looking toward 2026, and our focus is on getting a new head coach in the building. And the other one isn't guaranteed a spot in the playoff yet. I don't care what Paul wants to say about that Texas game. You still have to play the game against Texas. You still have to play against Georgia Tech. And if you go 9-3, you should probably get into the playoff. but it is not a guarantee with how many 10-2 rosters we are going to see across the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC.
I wonder a little bit in this game if, because I agree. I mean, Cole agree with me, and I'll agree back with him. Like, you've got to be able to run the ball, but if they go down early and Georgia's able to, not that their pass rush has been elite this year, but if Georgia's able to force Florida to throw more than they want to in this game, even if they're not down, like if they're just stopping the run, or if Billy Gonzalez just wants to throw the ball because he was a wide receivers coach, whatever, or whatever the situation is, if they're able to force Lagway to have to be the guy to beat them, I don't think he can do it. And I don't know that Florida's defense, who was atrocious against Mississippi State late in the game, who was atrocious against A&M the week before, they're really banged up front. I don't love their secondary. Their linebackers are absolutely elite. Florida's got talent on the D-line too, so I'm not just discounting it completely. But I just don't know that they're going to be able to score enough if they have to lean on Lagway. They need to muddy this up. They need to make this a really ugly game and get a few breaks to go their way, which happens in rivalry games, but I don't think it does here. I'll go 31-17 UGA.
Tom?
Like I said, I kind of think this game is going to be a little eerily reminiscent of that first quarter, first half of Tennessee, Georgia. Over-unders 50.5, spread of 7.5 in favor of Georgia. Give me like 42-28. I just think that there's going to be opportunities for Florida to score. I just don't think they can win this game ultimately in the end. They just don't have enough firepower. And if they stay committed to the run, that's great, but they're going to put more emphasis on Lagway to try and catch them up as quickly as possible.
I'm in somewhat of an agreement between both of you. I think that Georgia does make this interesting in the first half. I think Florida is able to push this at least into the middle of the third quarter. And then we see Gunnar Stockton do what Gunnar Stockton's been doing all year, which is where he pulls away in the fourth. I got a 34-24 final score. I think that Georgia wins by 10.
On to the Big Ten, Nebraska and USC. This is an eliminator game. If both these teams are somewhat contenders, at least alive mathematically for the playoff, somebody will not be on Saturday afternoon. And so, Tom, let's talk about it.
Things are just not trending in the right direction for Nebraska. All the discussion about, is Matt Rule staying? Is he going? I don't know if there'd be that many Nebraska fans that'll be that upset about it. The loss recently to Minnesota on the road was a head scratcher. I think ultimately the way that you beat Nebraska is in the trenches, and it's not that difficult to do it. This is one of the worst, if not the worst, offensive lines in the Big Ten. The defensive line is porous. You're going to get some support from the back seven. So I could see Jaden Mayava having some issues in the passing game here, but not necessarily at all what he experienced against Notre Dame just the week prior, where he had 2 interceptions, was asked to throw the ball 42 times and had roughly like 50% completion percentage. You're going to see that attempt number come down a little bit. You're going to see the completion percentage number come up quite a bit. We were talking about before, Wayman Jordan is expected to miss multiple weeks for USC. One thing I always pay attention to with Lincoln Riley is he has the tendency to get pass happy, especially in his time at USC, given the quarterbacks that he's had. He often forgets about his running game, but they've done a pretty nice job this season not forgetting about the running game. Credit to King Miller coming in against Notre Dame, 18 carries for 70 yards, or about 4 yards per carry, a long of 15. So you can kind of do the math on that one. And you can see how they've tried to supplement it in a variety of different ways, a variety of different guys getting involved, using some of the quarterback run game. So I think they still will be able to run the football on Nebraska in this game. Having this game at home, I believe it's at home, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
it's in Lincoln.
It's in Lincoln? Okay. Even at the same time, I know that's a great home presence for Nebraska, but I just think USC is going to be balanced offensively. I think they're going to want to throw the football, and they're going to want to get into it through the air and hit their guys in the receiving core that they've had a lot of success with through the year. Lemon has been really, really strong this year, and he's helped them out in the rushing game as well. So I don't love this matchup for Nebraska because I just don't see this as a dominant USC front on the offensive line or defensive line necessarily, but they're better than what Nebraska is able to field. And ultimately, if you're Danton Lynn and you can make Dylan Raiola just uncomfortable back there, because Minnesota doesn't have elite pass rushers, and they spent most of that game living in the backfield, really just cutting through Nebraska's offensive line. That's really all you need to do, is just make sure he's off schedule and off platform. I know he can make some of those throws, but to make him do that for 4 quarters, it's not been productive for Nebraska in this game. So I think USC has the edge, even though they are on the road.
Let me ask you, Tom, because you look at the numbers and I wonder, sometimes stats do lie. Nebraska's number 2 in the country in pass defense right now, only behind Oregon. Is that legit, or is that, well, the competition that they played is not to par? Because again, we're talking about the number 1 scoring, the number 1 total offense and the number 1 passing offense that has weapons coming on into Lincoln.
Let's think about who they played, to your point. That game against Cincinnati to open up the season looks a little bit better, given what we know about the Bearcats now, but Cincinnati definitely wants to run the football quite a bit more, right? Then it's Akron, Houston Christian, then Michigan, which we've talked about is a service academy offense. Michigan State, Aiden Childs, while he can sling it, there's no one really for him to sling it to, and he's so inconsistent. Then you were at Maryland against Malik Washington and company on the road. You barely eked that one out. Malik Washington's been good. He doesn't necessarily have the threats on the offensive side of the ball in the wide receiver core that Maryland had the year prior. So a little bit different there. Minnesota, not a ton of threats really to speak of when it comes to throwing the football or catching it. And then Northwestern, kind of the same story. So I think they are a product of who they've played on that front. It's not to say that they won't be able to test USC in this situation and give some opportunities where Jaden Maiava might throw him one, because Maiava's thrown picks to multiple teams throughout the season. So you've seen instances where it's like, okay, you might be able to get one, but you really would have to be in a situation, if you're Nebraska, where you have to play that time of possession, field position type of game and slow things down and cut down on the possessions that USC ultimately gets if you're going to try and win this thing. And that's not necessarily been their game this year.
I have a tough time seeing, and I know USC has been up and down at times, but I just have a tough time seeing Nebraska be consistent enough in this thing. I think USC is going to get theirs at the end of the day. I don't know what this race is to. Sometimes I think about if we get to this point total, I really I feel like if USC gets to 30, I'm not sure Nebraska can keep up. And that even might be a little high of a number. 27 might actually be the number. So we're a little low on time, so I won't go super into thoughts there. But I have a lot more faith. They're a touchdown favorite on the road. So yeah, and I think they cover that. I think they win this thing 30-20.
I was thinking something similar. I was going to say 31-20.
Whoever is going to be the leader when it comes to the rushing totals, whether that be King Miller or whether that be Nebraska's running back, that's who I think wins this game. Here's what I'm going to do. I have no faith in either side. A coin. Heads, it's going to be USC. Tails, it's going to be Nebraska. It's heads. We're going USC across the board. I'll go 27-24.
On to the Big 12. We saved the best for last. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I am a Big 12 fan, so YOLO. Cincinnati, Utah. Cole, you want to start us off?
I've been beyond impressed with Cincinnati's offense this year. I think that's really been one of the most underrated parts of Big 12 play. And I wasn't high on Scott Satterfield as a coach. In fact, I said that he should have been on the hottest seat of all the Big 12 coaches going into this year, maybe minus Dave Aranda. I didn't buy into what we saw from Brendan Sorsby. There were a lot of people that I remember meeting up with, and they told me, "Hey, dude, you gotta start watching more Sorsby tape. He's legit." And honestly, we gotta start putting him at least in the conversation for Big 12 Player of the Year. Maybe if you want to go Davey O'Brien, that's fine. He's not going to win the Heisman because he plays in the Big 12, and that's atrocious. But still, he has been phenomenal this year. 20-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He's completing, if I'm not mistaken, just over 68% of his passes, nearly 2,000 yards through the air. But he also is a good runner. He's at 69 carries. He's averaging 6.2 yards an attempt, 400 plus yards on the ground. He leads the team in rushing touchdowns. So you not only got to prepare for him when you take on his arm, you also got to prepare for him when you take on his legs. The thing about that I really like when it comes to the offensive identity of what Cincinnati is, they're balanced on the ground. Evan Pryor and Tyway Walker both are seeing not the same amount of carries, but they're getting the same amount of yards. One only has 478, the other one has 466. They both have found the end zone 7 times. So they're doing a good job of splitting some things up. Cyrus Allen has been a really interesting find in the passing attack. And then Joe Royer, who was at one point viewed as the next big-time name at Ohio State, he goes on over to Cincinnati. He gets a new NIL deal this offseason, and he's going to represent the Bearcats in the pros next year. He may end up being one of the better teams that better tight end prospects that we talk about as a team that kind of turns the corner and puts themselves in a position to where they can be really successful. It's not a bad defense. They're 28th in the country in points allowed. They're in the top 50 in total yards allowed. They're in the top 50 in run defense this year. They know how to get after quarterbacks, and that's going to be something that Devin Dampier, I think, is going to have some issues with in this matchup. But at the same time, Morgan Scully's defense has been great once again. They also are a top 10 unit this season. They are able to kind of eliminate a lot of the big shot plays downfield. Bear Bachmeier and the BYU Cougars, they won because they were able to connect on third down. I honestly think that if you look at this game plan to beat Utah, you're going to have to follow a similar metric than what you saw from BYU a few weeks ago. It's a late kick, if I'm not mistaken, 9:00 at night or something like that. Between these two, it's out at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Game day is going to be there. This, I think, is really going to come down to which team is better on third down conversions. Defensively, is it going to be Morgan Scully's defense, or offensively, is it going to be Brendan Sorsby? If you can get the job done and constantly be able to win on those short yardage situations, Cincinnati at this point, we got to start treating them like a legit threat in the Big 12. I don't think it's that far-fetched to say that they have proven by the way that they've won. They're going to be in every single matchup.
You are correct. 10:15 Eastern time. Yeah. So is that 8:15 in Utah? I think so.
7:15, I believe.
Oh, are they all the way over? Are they?
They? Maybe it is 8:15.
Somewhere
9:15 my time.
Night game. They'll be
10:15 p.m. Eastern.
Tom, anything here, or you want to predict it?
Kind of like I was saying before, Cincinnati, the way they run the football is really impressive. Sorsby does exactly all the right things. He's not necessarily going to win the Heisman Trophy this year or anything. I agree with what Cole was saying. Could very well win Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, but he just does all the right things. He pushes all the right buttons. That being said, I do not love this situation on the road. At Utah at night, really tough place to play. Really tough place to play. Give me Utah 27-25.
We do really well with Utah viewers, so I'm not saying this because I want to upset you guys, but I would really like to see Cincinnati win this just because they're kind of a fun team to cheer for. Maybe go for the little guy. I just don't see it happening. I like Utah as well to get it done at home. That's a tough place to play, man, and one of the more underrated places to play in the entire country. I know we all think about like the Swamp and Death Valley and the Shoe and all these other places, but that's a really tough place to play. If they win this weekend, I'll solidly move them into the contender talk that we have talked about. I don't know that we'll do that segment again next week, but I'll give them a special shout out just from TJ Pittinger on Monday. I'm sure they'll play that all over the building for the next week, maybe month, if we do that. But yeah, give me Utah 27-26, 1 point win.
Does anybody know the status of Devin Dampier right now?
He didn't
play in that game against Colorado. So that's the thing. So Braylon Ficklin may be the start in this game. I'm riding the hot hand, and it pains me because I love Kyle Whittingham. And Kyle Whittingham is one of my favorite coaches of all time. But I just think that right now, the way that we're seeing Cincinnati's offense move, I think their defense does just enough, especially if you don't got Dampier out there. I will go 24-21 final score. Cincinnati gets the job done. They stay in the conversation for a college football playoff bid.
Very rarely do I hope that Cole is right and I'm wrong, but this is one of those times. Good luck, Bearcats. But Utah, I think you got it. So, all right, that's all we got for this week. We will be back on Monday. I assume Monday. But Monday at noon to talk about some of these games, talk about maybe more coaches out. We'll see what Florida State does against Wake Forest. We'll see what Auburn does this weekend. We'll see what does Kentucky play. Like, yeah, all these places where things could happen are interesting, and we'll talk about all of it on the Power 2 here on College Football Addiction. We appreciate you guys for hanging out. We'll talk to you soon.